All right, today we're going to dive into one of the most tangled and frankly disturbing scandals of our time. And look, this isn't just a story about one man. It's a story about incredible power, some really dark secrets, and this ongoing hunt for a truth that always seems to be just out of reach.
At the very heart of the whole Jeffrey Epstein saga are these huge questions that still haunt us, right? You've got this infamous island, supposed to be a paradise, but it was anything but. You've got this network of the world's most powerful people, and, of course, a death in a super-secure jail cell that a lot of people believe was no suicide at all.
So if we really want to understand this, we have to look at the key pieces of the puzzle. There's the private Caribbean island, the notorious private jet, a guest list that reads like a who's who of global power, and the secret files. The files that some people say could bring the whole thing crashing down.
So let's start right at the epicenter of it all, a place officially called Little St. James, but which the world would soon come to know by a much darker name, Epstein Island.
You know, the island itself is just bizarre. On the surface, a 72-acre paradise, every luxury you could dream of. But when investigators started looking closer, they found some really strange details. This weird temple-like building, for instance, underground corridors that fueled all sorts of speculation about secret tunnels, CCTV cameras covering every single inch of the place. They even found unusual medicines during raids, which just raised even more disturbing questions.
So, how did the man at the center of this web get so powerful in the first place? I mean, his rise was just as mysterious as it was fast.
Believe it or not, Epstein started out pretty humbly as a math teacher back in the 70s, but he quickly made the jump to Wall Street and somehow got in with billionaires like Leslie Wexner, the founder of Victoria's Secret. By managing their massive fortunes, he built his own. And with that money, he bought access to the highest levels of society you can imagine.
And the scale of his empire was just staggering. We're talking about the largest private home in all of Manhattan, a sprawling 75,000-acre ranch out in New Mexico, a luxury apartment in Paris, and of course, his private Boeing 727, which got that infamous nickname, the Lolita Express. This wealth wasn't just for luxury. It was a tool. It was his tool for power and influence.
But behind this shiny facade of wealth and powerful connections was a meticulously organized criminal operation, one that preyed on the young and the vulnerable.
And he was not acting alone. The key figure in this whole operation was Ghislaine Maxwell. As the daughter of a famous media mogul, she had the social status and the charm to operate right out in the open. Her job, prosecutors said, was to be the recruiter, to target girls, often in vulnerable situations, and lure them into Epstein's network.
You can almost think of it like their roles were clearly defined. Epstein was the financier. He had the money, the islands, the jets. He built the entire infrastructure. Maxwell was the operator, the one managing the day-to-day logistics of the trafficking ring. Together, they formed a horrifyingly effective partnership.
And this is why the story continues to just captivate and disturb so many people. The list of his associates includes former presidents, royalty, tech billionaires. Flight logs show Bill Clinton flew on Epstein's jet 26 times. Prince Andrew's association led to a complete public downfall and a massive legal settlement. These connections weren't just a side note. They were central to his power. They gave him a shield of legitimacy. But when the law finally did catch up with Epstein, it seemed like all his power and connections put him beyond the reach of any real justice.
So back in 2008, Epstein was facing charges that should have meant life in prison. But instead, his high-powered lawyers cut a secret deal with federal prosecutors, a deal the victims were never even told about. And the result? He served just 13 months in a county jail and was even allowed to leave for work during the day. It was so lenient, it became infamous as the sweetheart deal.
And the crucial point here is this. The deal did way more than just give Epstein a light sentence. It sealed the records, and it protected anyone else who might have been implicated. It was a stunning failure of the justice system that not only let this go on for another decade, but it completely eroded public trust. It made everyone ask, is justice really blind when there's that much wealth and power involved? But the story wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Years later, some really determined investigative journalism would drag all these secrets back into the light, setting off a chain of events that absolutely no one could have predicted. And then everything just unraveled with incredible speed. In 2018, that perversion of justice report from journalist Julie K. Brown came out and exposed the whole secret deal, causing massive public outrage. By July of 2019, Epstein was arrested again.
Just 1 month later, he was found dead in his cell. The hunt for justice then turned to Ghislaine Maxwell. She was arrested in 2020 and later sentenced to 20 years in prison. Now, Epstein's death, happening inside one of America's most secure jails, it immediately sparked a huge question, one that's still the subject of intense debate and 1,000 conspiracy theories to this day.
I mean, the circumstances were just highly suspicious. Both security cameras outside his cell, they just happened to malfunction that night. The 2 guards who were supposed to be checking on him every 30 minutes, they were reportedly asleep, and he had just been taken off suicide watch. All of this while the world's most powerful people were terrified he was about to start naming names in court. So the official ruling was suicide. But for millions of people, the facts just don't add up. The belief that Epstein was silenced to protect others, that remains a very widespread and powerful conviction.
So with Epstein dead and Maxwell in prison, the story has moved into a totally new phase, this slow, painstaking search for real accountability and for the full, unvarnished truth.
One form of that accountability has been financial. A compensation fund was set up using Epstein's huge estate, and it has since paid out over $121 million to more than 150 of his survivors. It's absolutely a measure of justice, but for many, it's just not enough.
And that brings us to the next chapter, the ongoing release of the Epstein files. Starting in 2024, the courts began unsealing thousands of pages of documents from the case. Now, the first wave didn't really contain that bombshell client list many were hoping for, but you have to remember, this is just the tip of the iceberg. There are still over 1 million pages of records that remain sealed, holding who knows what secrets.
And that really brings us to the ultimate question, doesn't it? Jeffrey Epstein is gone, but the network of power he built and the secrets he kept still cast this long, dark shadow. As the files continue to come out and his survivors continue to seek full justice, the world is just left asking, will we ever actually learn the complete truth? Are his secrets really buried with him?